Hello and Namaste. I am Ketan Kang from 192 Consulting. In this video, we are going to take a look at the reasons of rejection of Form SH13. SH13 is the form wherein an investor appoints a nominee to his securities. After reclaiming of the shares, if the investor does not want to readily sell them and if he or she wants to keep those shares till the further period of time, and in case the investor is deceased during this period, the shares or the corporate benefits accruing on those shares or securities will bestow upon the nominee that the person has mentioned through Form SH13. So SH13 forms a very critical part while considering the legacy or while considering the shares or the value of the shares that will accrue down the line. So normally the nominees are the family members of the shareholders or people who are very close friends and associates. Now, there are some cares that have to be taken while filing Form SH13. I have a form in front of me so that we will go point by point in this video and understand as to what details have to be mentioned and what care has to be taken while mentioning those details. So first of all, the name of the company and address of that company has to be written. Most of the times investors make mistake and put the details of the RTA while filling this form. So, the investors should understand the RTA is only the custodian who has been outsourced with the formalities of completing the details of share transmission, the share transfer or the reclaiming. They are not per se the issuers of the shares. So, the name of the company to which the shares belong or the name of the company which has issued the shares has to be mentioned along with the address of the registered office of the company. So it is very important that the registered office address has to be mentioned, not the corporate office. Investors can find this registered office on the website of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Secondly, the details that are to be mentioned on this form are the nature of securities, folio, number of securities, certificate number and distinctive number. We have seen that these details are required to be filled in previous forms such as ISR 1. Now, these details become very important because there can be a person can appoint a nominee for part shares and the part shares either some other person can be appointed as nominee or they can be kept out of nomination by filing Form ISR 3. So, the nature of the securities, for example, equity or debt bonds or etc. has to be mentioned. Exact folio number to which the shares belong has also to be mentioned. Then the distinctive number, security certificate numbers, everything has to be mentioned very correct. ISR 3 is for opting out. SH13 is for mentioning or appointing a nominee. If any of these details are mentioned or to be mentioned on SH13 go wrong, company will reject SH13 or this form and it will be sent back to the person to make the necessary changes. Then the very crux of this form comes as to the details of the nominee. The name of that nominee has to be mentioned. Now see, the name has to corroborate with the name mentioned on his basic KYC papers such as PAN and Aadhaar. So if there is any change in the name, then first the PAN and Aadhaar have to be updated on with the new name or the new details, and the same has to be entered as the details on SH13. Then father's, mother's or spouse's name. See, the father's name is very important because again it should match with the name that is mentioned on the PAN, and then mother's name and the spouse's name that is optional, but we advise that in most of the cases while appointing a nominee, father's name, even if it is a married daughter, then a married woman should mention her father's name. That becomes easier to corroborate, that becomes easier for the company to corroborate it with the PAN which contains the name of the father most of the times. Relationship with the security holder. There is no limit for which, or there is no such identified or specified relationships who can become the nominee. Even if a person is not in a blood relation with the security holder can become a nominee, but in that case the true and fair relation of that person with the nominee. If there is any change in the relation, or if there is any misstatement that made with relation to the if there is misstatement in this respect, then SH13 might get rejected. Occupation has to be mentioned, then nationality and mobile number. We insist that the email address and mobile number should be very specifically and correctly mentioned because the details of the nominee by operation of the law get activated after the person who holds the securities is deceased. So, email address and mobile number are only two basic things through which the company can reach out to that person who is appointed as the nominee. So, these details have to be mentioned very carefully. If there is any mismatch while containing, or if later on, before the company reaches out to the nominee, if the nominee reaches out to the company in case of the disease, or if in case of a death of the original shareholder, and if the details mentioned by the nominee do not match with the details of HS13 which was earlier filed by the original shareholder, then there might be some conflict which may arise, and again it may take time, and the company may ask numerous other documents to establish the identity of the actual nominee. In case, now this is very important, in case the nominee is a minor, so the law allows a minor person to get appointed as a nominee on the securities. However, the minor, till he attains the age of majority, those securities will be, or the name of the guardian is very important to be mentioned while mentioning a minor nominee or while appointing a minor nominee. And lastly, the signature of the security holders. Two very important points. If the shares are held singly, then that person should sign the SH13. If there are a lot of incidences, even if this is very basic in nature, there are a lot of incidences that people actually have forgotten to sign SH13. So if there is single shareholder, then the person should himself sign the form. If there are multiple shareholders who are holding the shares jointly, then the SH13 should get signed in the sequence of their holdings. So all these details have to be filled in very carefully. Even a slightest mistake in filing this detail will become the reason for rejection of SH13. Should you have any query on or any clarity on how SH13 has to be approved or gets approved, or what details have to be filed in SH13, you can feel free to mark your comments in the comment section of this video, or you may also write to us on info@192.in. We will be all the more happy to help. Till the time, thank you so much.